Alright, so I needed to say something because people can't get it through their fucking thick skulls. Um, there's nothing special about the fucking eclipse. It's just a fucking shadow. It's just a fucking shadow. What is wrong with you motherfuckers that are sitting there? Oh my god, well, NASA doesn't know what they're talking about, or this, that, or the other. Fucking who gives a shit? It's a shadow. Get over yourselves. Oh, look at the sun. Totality is such a scary word. Dude, totality is just fucking the point where you can see the corona around the outside of the shadow of the moon because of where you're standing. And you'd have to literally be directly in that pinpoint of darkness from, it's literally the shadow of the moon. You'd have to be standing in it to see that because of the way that the light is coming around the outside of the moon. It's when you can see the full corona, but you can't see the sun. It's not when everything goes black, it's just fucking. No, it's when you can see the corona around the outside of the shadow of the moon. That is what's called totality, because it is the moon's shadow is totally within the aspect of the sun's perspective light around it. That is totality. Once the moon starts to move away and it goes all black again, that's not totality. That's the end of totality. You have the beginning and the end of totality, and those 2 points are completely black. You can't see the sun or the moon. At the point where it is totality, where you're experiencing totality, that's where you can see the corona around the outside. That's your totality. This is actually fucking, NASA's explanation. This is the planetarium's explanations. The different planetariums around the country, hell, around the globe for that matter, but around the country where you go to study these things. There's places where you can go to study this stuff. It's called a planetarium. Normally you can find them nearby or observatories, or they are observatories. And an observatory is basically a gigantic freaking telescope on a hill. Okay? That's how these work. So and the public are able to access these things, by the way. Don't know if you knew this, but Griffith Observatory is a helioscope. A gigantic fucking helioscope that looks at our sun 24/7, 365. You can go there and you can go look. That is what it is. The Griffith Observatory is a helioscope. Now, they do have telescopes. They do have a planetarium. They do have a, science vault and all that fun shit. And a museum as well, a scientific museum. But that is not their main thing. Their main thing is they are a fucking helioscope. They look at the sun. Oh my God. So, yes, these places exist. If you don't know about, the cosmos and stars and suns and planets and stuff like that, you can go to these places, and they exist around the country and, for that matter, around the globe. Okay? And yes, I call it a globe because guess what? It is a fucking ball you are sitting on, even though you don't like that. I don't care who you are. If you don't like the fact that you're on a freaking globe, too bad. You couldn't stand on a plate if you tried. Try and stand on the edge of a plate. Go ahead, I'll wait. Because the whole thing is that you can't stand on the edge of a plate. Even if you balance on it, at some point in time, you're going to lose your balance. You cannot stay on the edge of a plate. So if your plate, that's your so-called flat earth or whatever you fucking idiots are calling. I don't think this is even scientifically relevant, but I'm humoring it. Gravity would place you on one side or the other. You could never stay on the edge of that plate. Also, gravity would rush everything into the center. Don't see that happening. Remember, gravity is due to mass, not due to it's due to mass times acceleration. Gravity. Okay, gravity to an extent is mass times acceleration because it's kinetic energy. It's all the same thing. It's all relative. If that's all the same thing and all relative, and gravity holds you to the planet because you are mass at a certain amount of acceleration. If you were standing on the edge of that plate, you would not be able to stay on the edge of that plate very long. You would tip one way or another because the edge of that plate is rounded and also sharpened. It's flat, right? So you'd fall off one side or the other. This is why that does not work. Okay? Gravity. It is an amazing thing. Gravity would pull you to the center of that plate. It would not pull you to the surface of that plate. Because what you don't realize is do this with a plate. You could pour water on a plate, okay, and hold it on that plate, and it'll hold to the top of that plate to a certain extent of what you're holding. But then if you turn that plate sideways, it does not hold to that fucking plate. It just goes to the ground. And the ground that you're standing on, even though there's a very subtle curvature, is curved. It is. And gravity pulls to the center. Okay? It pulls to the center. It doesn't go to one side or the other or one, uphill or downhill. It goes to the center. So that's how that works. Gravity is pulling to the center. It doesn't matter which way you look at it, it's always pulling to the center. So if we're saying that, you're going to go, remember it's mass times acceleration, mass divided by acceleration is gravity. Mass times acceleration is energy. My bad. Mass divided by acceleration is your gravitational construct. So when you take mass divided by acceleration, our planet's spinning so fast, your mass is so much, the planet's mass is so much, okay? And mass is weight times volume, right? That's mass. So the planet's mass is so big, your mass is only so big. But because you're spinning, you feel less mass, you feel less weight. See how this works? You're actually feeling less pull towards the planet because you're being accelerated, not more. That's how that works. You would be a pancake against the ground if it wasn't for the fact that you're spinning around really, really fucking fast because of how big the planet is. So I want you to imagine that the moon is about a third the size of our planet, but it's really fucking far out there. The moon is actually further away from our planet than you would be able to drive around the circumference of the planet. Okay? I want to make that clear. Take a ship, whatever, one full exact circuit around the surface of the planet is actually not as far as it is to our closest planetary binary, which is the moon. And we call it a planetary binary because it is actually about a third of the size of our planet. It's pretty heavy. It's pretty big. Okay? And so Moon's out there about 233,000 miles. Okay. 233,000 miles versus, the sun, which is, what was it? 40 million times the size of the planet, or 40 million times the size of Earth is the size of the sun. But it is 92 million miles away. Now, you remember my little analogy with, the light source? We'll do it again. So we're clear. Try and get us a good shadow here. All right, so 92 million miles away, that shadow, all right, versus, so if we're talking, if the moon was up against the planet, there'd be this bigger shadow. I mean, up against, either the planet or the star, there'd be a bigger shadow. But because the moon is just far enough away from the planet, okay, it's not right up on the planet, so it's not even more big of a shadow. It's just far enough away to where that shadow shrinks just by a little bit. And because the planet is about, 2/3 the size, 2/3 or 2 times again the size of our moon, and our moon is just far enough away that it kind of makes a good shadowy kind of look to it when it goes across the plane of our perspective. This is a big deal when we're talking about an eclipse because it is a shadow with a light source. So perspective, it's a big deal. Okay? Say you're down here and you're looking at your light source go across the other. Okay? So you're seeing something that's about, because of how far away it is, you're seeing something like that come across. As this comes across this way, this goes across the other way. All right? Because of how the planet is spinning. And yet, how the moon is following that spin. Okay? So, the moon's following the spin of the planet, and this, because of the spin of the planet and the moon itself, you're seeing that. Okay? That's why you see the corona around the outside, because the sun is much fucking bigger and also very far away. So perspective creates this particular optical illusion. Do you see how that works? It's an optical illusion. By how you're looking at it, your perspective tells you where exactly the different things are, and your brain thinks, well, because this is what I'm seeing, this is what it must be. So that's just the same size things going across each other, and I get to see just the outside cusp of it. It's wrong. You're seeing something that's millions of miles away and something that's hundreds of thousands of miles away. That's what you're seeing. And it's like taking a giant freaking stadium light and a pinhead and holding them at relative distances appropriately, and then having a tennis ball. That'd be about approximately what you're approximating there. Maybe a little bit bigger than a pinhead, maybe like a marble or something. But it's pretty much the same in aspect, and you'd have to hold your marble, say if we're talking a football field, you'd have to hold your marble about 20 feet away from you. And then that football field away from you would be the light source. It's really big distances. Okay? And you're not going to see a very big dot with that. It's going to be a little tiny pinhole of a dot that you can only really see if you line it up perfectly. And once you line it up perfectly, then you'll be able to see that tiny little pinprick of a dot on the surface of the tennis ball, but just barely. Whereas if you're looking from the perspective of the tennis ball, you'll see that little tiny thing move in front of the stadium light and then move away from it. Even though it's a little tiny thing, it'll blot out the light long enough so that you can see that totality where it has that little bitty corona around the outside. And it's the same thing. It comes down to perspective and your aspect of where you're looking at the two celestial bodies working in basically just in tandem to show you an amazing optical illusion, which is nothing more than an optical illusion due to the fact of the distances involved and the lensing effect of our atmosphere. It's pretty amazing how this shit works. So I hope y'all learned something, and I hope it was educational for you. But I do have to point out that there are these people out there that are going to try and show you things that and try to mess with your head about things that aren't real. And the reason why I say they aren't real is because you can actually recreate this in a lab setting. You can go ahead and look at the plethora of information that there is there for you to see and for you to understand. And you can go to these places which are literally just watch the fucking universe. They don't do shit else. Maybe they'll have like a museum or something, or a fun little, place to go and buy stuff, like a gift shop or something. Or, a cafeteria or something for people who go there and they study and they watch this stuff and they do, they go through these different things. And you know what? I do it all the time. Sometimes I'll go up there just on a whim. Hey, I want to go to this, or I want to go to this particular day's showing or something at the planetarium. It's things like that. Observatories, planetariums, they're a big deal when it comes down to things like astrophysical phenomena. So do so. Go and look and see and understand things for more than just what you'd find on the YouTube spaces, because oh my holy hell, the rabbit hole gets deep with that shit. And people lose their minds. They really do. And they don't have a firm foundation in understanding in how this works. And actually having messed with it yourself, growing up learning this stuff, going to the planetariums on almost a weekly basis when I was a kid. And even into my adulthood, whenever I got enough money together to be able to go and do it, because it costs gas, it costs time, it costs food, it costs, whatever admission they might charge, if they charge. Some places do, some places don't. Depends on whether it's private or public. Okay. And you can go and watch these things, these phenomena happen out there in the cosmos in real fucking time. You can go and watch it happen. You don't have to sit there in your backyard or do some shit. You can go and watch it through the really nice fancy shit they've got. Or you could do like, folks did when they was going to school. Take a cardboard box and another cardboard box, and you shove that cardboard box in the other cardboard box at an angle, relative to how you're going to be looking at the sun. And in the cardboard box that you shove into the other cardboard box, you have a piece of paper. White piece of paper, black piece of paper, doesn't really fucking matter, but shows up better on the white. Or for that matter, on green. You take that and you place it at an angle in your cardboard box that's getting shoved into the other cardboard box. Okay. And then you take the other cardboard box, which has one end of it is at least is closed, and you poke a pinhole in that. And that is called a helioscope. And so that you're looking at the reflected light from the paper, but all of the dangerous spectrum is just passing through the paper. See how that works? It's a pretty amazing shit, man. So, yeah. That's what a helioscope is. You're looking at a reflection of the light that's coming into it. That's it. It's not some digital fancy, this, that, or the other, like using your cell phone. Okay? It's literally you're looking at the light being shown. That's it. It takes the image up there, flips it around 180, and sticks it in your eyes. Without the harmful rays, of course. That's how that works. So, the whole thing of we need to be terrified of this shit, you don't need to be terrified of it. Go look at it. But look at it appropriately so you don't burn the fuck out of your eyes. That's why helioscopes exist. No, a welding mask is not good enough. A welding mask deals with a different type of spectrum and a different power flux. It will not shade for looking at the sun. You need a reflection. There's a reason why physicists the world over cut up cardboard boxes and make helioscopes. Cheap, easy. There you go. I don't need to spend millions of fucking dollars to look at an eclipse. $5 I can go look at the eclipse safely. I don't have to spend $40 or $50 for a welding mask. A cardboard box will suffice. And it will suffice better than if I used a set of welding goggles. Or those special glasses, which are fucking retarded because you're still taking on the full blast of the sun. Your eyes are not designed for that. That's just a reality. Your eyes are not designed to take that. You can take a reflection, as long as it's not a full reflective. You've got to take off some of that. It's got to have some pass through. Okay, that's why I said, piece of white paper, piece of black paper if you really want to be frizzy about it. Piece of green paper if you're, you don't have white paper, but you got some green paper, green construction paper will work. But black is the worst. It gives you the least amount of being able to see it. And white is the best because you can see everything about it. Still, you got to remember, it's not the spectrums that you can see that are dangerous to your eyes. It's the ones you can't see that are dangerous to your eyes. There's a reason for things like a hat brim. Why do you think I wear this fucking thing? It's not because I like looking like a duck. It's because I like to be able to see. And sunlight is hazardous to your eyes. So, actually freaking use the knowledge that is there for you to utilize so you can learn. Because at this point, if you're watching my videos, you realize you're learning. You're no longer being taught. I'm giving you the tools to go and learn. Go out and learn. This is Yo Guardsman, and motherfuckers, you have a good day.